Hey there Internet, Keeve here, and welcome to the Cars and Keeve YouTube channel. In this video, we're going over how to upgrade your current DI system. If you already have one of these and you're like, man, it's just not enough. Well, let's upgrade them to 20 inch. And that way we can also add a inline TDS meter too while we're at it. And by going the way that I'm suggesting, you're turning your two-stage system into a four-stage system. A two-stage carbon block 10-inch system that you're basically using these housings for. You're upgrading this to the 20 inch, taking the manifolds from the 20 inch cheap housings that we bought to create that 10 inch setup. Because we know that carbon blocks help with chlorine, chloramine, stuff like that. That would help lengthen your resin life. And actually in a future video, we're actually going to put that to the test. We're actually going to run a DI system and we're going to run with a carbon filter. We're going to do it twice to make sure our numbers are good, but we're going to tell you the increase of that carbon filter versus no carbon filter. Hopefully that works because I done wasted a bunch of money in carbon filters. That wasn't the case. Now this video was supposed to be much more than just upgrading. It was actually supposed to be build your own DI system and the upgrade. But the build your own DI system kind of spiraled out of control. It's 3 different types, pretty expensive video, and I think that's going to be awesome. Plus I bought the new CR Spotless with the built-in bypass, which is very new, just came out. That should be a video as well. Plus the theory on the carbon filter is going to be a month of deionization Spotless for August. Now, if you have Waterdrop, the filter housings and links that I'll have below will work for this. But I want to warn you, if you have another 10-inch system, make sure you check what you're looking at on Amazon, what I have linked, that the thread patterns and the O-ring locations match. There are probably 3 to 4 different types of filter housings. So this is what you get for that $62. And there's other filter housings out there that I'm going to use in the next video for the build your own DI system that are $52. This actually comes with this entire top. You can see 1 inch, and that's metal thread on the inside. That's nice there. You have these tabs that keep it nice in the middle, and there's a little cross pattern here in the middle that makes it less likely that your tube in the middle is not going to line up correctly, which is a big problem with the CR Spotless. So this is what I'm talking about. This right here. This will go inside the middle of that filter. If it doesn't, then the top won't screw down. Now on the CR Spotless, this does not exist. Now we have our 20-inch filter housing. We got to put something in there. In comes your 20-inch bulk resin filter. This is $22.50 on Amazon. And what I really like about this is it's basically triple filtered. We have a filter on the bottom because the water is going to flow down the tube. It's going to go all the way down here and then come up in through here, through this filter. Then it's going to run through the resin. The top of the resin, you've got a really nice thick pad here. And at the top of the resin, you have another filter to keep that resin from getting out. What sucks, I spent all this money doing this, and I thought I was going to save us about 20 bucks because the CR Spotless 20-inch filters already pre-filled were about $160. Well, they dropped the price recently, and they've been out for a little while. They're about $139. That's these. Now, this one is an old one that's already been spent out of my old CR Spotless. They're designed differently, but you'll see both of them at the top. You see the washer here and that hole, how this can get misaligned. I don't know if you can see it, how in my CR Spotless, it was misaligned. And I even had, there's a little plastic filter that snaps on right here that keeps it aligned. It was not aligned completely. You can see, I actually was right on the edge. I could have been getting blow by, not properly filtering the water. I needed some resin. We have some Colombian Bam Bam here. Now, as you can see, what I really like about this is it's about one of the cheapest on the market, but it's also completely air sealed. So it's going to keep a lot longer. Plus the material is very strong. So when you cut the corner, it keeps its form. So it's much easier to pour it into a housing. So you need 2 filters, you're going to need 2 of these. So that's $100, $22.50. We're at $145. We're actually $5 more than the $139 for these. I mean, with this, you have to do nothing. It's already filled for you. You just drop it in and go. I still prefer this though. It's $5 more. It takes more work to fill it up. I like my alignment system a lot better. This inside of the tube, it just doesn't fit right. This fits better because it's got a wider footprint at the top and these little rubber pieces that I created. A solid piece of rubber that I got off Amazon for, I don't know, like $10 or $12. I basically used this tool. Here's that tool. You can see the needle, the razor blade in there. And you can adjust this back and forth for your difference. You can see how well of a perfect circle that it cuts. And that creates this. You see it has a notch there. It's very easy. This just comes off. That slides down. It's going to help this keep aligned at the top very easily. Now I wish I had the plastic housings for the CR Spotless, but they break every single time. So I just got tired of them. They snap in, they're really flimsy, and they really don't center very well. They still move back and forth within the housing. You see how it's not centered. Now here's my alignment gasket. This is just going to go down. You see how those notches go in there? It fits perfectly. Work in on the bottom, go all the way in. You see, it is not moving. It is dead perfect centered. So last but not least, and the most complicated, is going to be putting an inline TDS meter in the housings. Now you could put it outside. There's a whole bunch, there's like some T fittings and some other kind of adapters you can use. I tried it. It didn't work that well. It didn't measure great. And it also creates this big apparatus that makes this so much bigger. Doing it inside the housing is going to really make it right in line, right where that water's coming out of here in the perfect spot to measure. And these type of meters, the same one that CR Spotless uses, this is meant and calibrated for running water. This is 1/4 inch OD, this sensor. That will snap into that adapter, and we'll have to thread to be able to drill that in there. Could tap in from the top, drill a hole in the top. I thought about that, but I decided not to do that. I decided to do it this way. I cut a window here. Now these are the adapters. I'll leave a link below. As you can see, it's got this little piece here that pushes in where that OD connector snaps in. You have your thread and an O-ring. But I made one modification that I don't necessarily advise. I bored it out, and I just made sure I didn't go too far. You get 5 of these, so you get 4 chances to not screw it up. We used the 5/16 bit to drill out that adapter. As you can see, it just snaps in like that. You see the prongs are floating around much more in there versus this one. See, the prongs are just sitting in there in a little hole, so the water's got to be able to get in there to those prongs. It should still work. I just feel like this is much better. For this 10-inch filter housing for our 4-stage, we're going to need carbon filter. And we're going to use Ice Pure. And Ice Pure I really like. This is a 1 micron, so really good for sediment filtration as well. 2 of these back to back. Now, one warning with carbon filtration, carbon will create more TDS. So say I have 50 coming in, I might have 65 or 70 coming out with this, but it's just carbon stuff from all the activated charcoal and everything that's in here. Very easy for the DI system to handle versus chemicals like chlorine and stuff like that. Before we get into the nitty gritty, don't forget to check out the links below for anything in the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let's get to the fun. So here's our work. In order to be able to get the socket in there and be able to get that adapter to fit, you got to dig into this housing. It's pretty deep, but I use this 7/16 to drill that out. It's very close to the thread needed. Here's your 1/2 NF20. It's basically a thread count. There's 2 different kinds of threads. There's like a much more separated thread, but the 20 thread is the one you need. And then we just used our tap to tap out and thread that out all the way in to allow us the ability to screw our adapter in. I use the Dremel tool a lot. As you can see, I tore my drum up, but I use that to work this down, work this down, work this down. And I actually also went straight in like that to create this little indentation to allow that O-ring to seal really well and allow the outer half of the adapter to really seat in there. So here's what I used. I have my Ryobi brushless, whatever you call it. It's just like a cutting tool. It's like a Dremel. I use this for all kinds of stuff. Now this is a 17 millimeter. And it's plastic, so be very careful using the metal socket with plastic. As you can see, our threads are nice and tight. There's our adapter sealed in there real nice and tight. Now when I did on the window, I basically figured out where that adapter was going to be. I used my cutting tool. I basically went straight down like that. And then I went straight down like that. And then straight down like that. And then this way to create a square. But then when I put it in there, I realized it was touching right here a little too much. So I used the sanding drum here because that's what kind of tore it up. And I sanded all of this down to create a little bit of a concave here to allow that to fit in perfectly. And word of advice, permanent marker does not show up black on black. It shows up like this. So we put our system on. As you can see, it's very easy to line up and make sure our holes are lined up the way they were stock. And as you can see, it's not exactly centered. So it's always best to go just like this. Then we push in. As you can see, just like that. I'm going to spin this upright, and then we're going to set all of these screws. Now the TDS meter comes with Velcro. As you can see, I've already took the tape off and set it exactly where I wanted it. So you can set it on the front of this. Here, you can set it anywhere you want. On the wall, it does not have to be on the unit. Now when you set all this, you're like, well, this is a bit sloppy. Well, all you have to do is just tuck your wire behind and underneath. So you just push the wire through here, all the slack. And that's going to give just a little bit of wire outside here, and then the wire going around this pressure button to your TDS meter. Looks nice and clean. Now we have our inline TDS meter done. The only thing left to do for this system is to go to the 20-inch filters. First things first, your system should come with a filter housing wrench. If you bought two of these separate like I did, you're going to get two of those for these, and plus the one that came with the Waterdrop. So loosening it is going to be pulled towards me. Oh my gosh, that was on there. There we go. Those kind of get sucked onto there. And there we go. First, we got to fill our bulk resin. I cut the corner on the bag. Of course, it loses its seal when that happens. You see how like really strong this material is? It just builds this perfect little opening here at the bottom to just force the resin out. It works really well. And this is an 8-pound bag. These usually hold about 7 to 7.5 pounds. So you will have a pound per bag left over of resin. See how perfect that works pouring wise? So now we still got some left in here, but it works down really quick. It's already all the way down to about right here. We haven't wasted much at all. I put this in the top. I'm going to use that to pack this down as much as I can. There we go. Our resin is done. As you can see, refilling resin is very easy, especially like I said, when you have a bag like this. See what we have about a pound or so left in here. And that's going to be perfect. We can, with this really nice bag, we can maybe even use a zip tie to keep it formed. Now we're going to put them in their housing. Oh, with that guide, it's just so easy, and it just stays there. So in this video, normally when I do DI systems, I test them, but I know from the CR Spotless bulk resin filters of this size, I'm going to get between 750 and 800 gallons. I usually get 60-ish ppm, but my water acts very much like 100 ppm water because of all the chlorine. And it all works kind of linearly. It's very hard because everybody's water is different. But say if I can do 100 TDS water at 700 gallons, at 200 TDS, you're gonna be doing about 350. At 400 TDS, you're gonna do about 175. All right, we're just gonna set this on here. These are just gonna go right in, no problem. Do a little bit at a time if you're gonna do it this way. Now, the great thing about the 20-inch versus the 10-inch is this doesn't have to go all the way up to the top. So we only have to go up about that high to get the leverage we need. I also forgot to mention the O-rings on these. Use something like this, O-ring lubricant. This will actually lubricate that and allow it to not dry out. And it won't make it, swell up like Vaseline would. O-ring silicone lubricant. And the one thing I like about these filter housings versus CR Spotless is their CR Spotless ones are more rounded on the bottom. These are actually very well balanced. See, even a 20-inch filter, this is your handle that you can use to transport it around. This doesn't have to be wall mounted. You can see it is pretty balanced and stable. A CR Spotless like this is not very well balanced. The best thing about going to 20 inches is if you were running the 10-inch filter and you were getting higher than normal TDS readings, say like you couldn't get it below 20. This is going to allow you to get to 0 because there's much more surface area. So onto the carbon 2-stage part of the build, which makes it that total 4-stage. That's what makes this whole upgrade worth it money-wise, because we are utilizing the 2 manifolds that came with those 20-inch filter housings, and we're going to use those with the extra 10-inch empties that we got from the Waterdrop. You want to make sure that through the packaging that you get both of your little gaskets right here, top and bottom. You're going to need those. So these just plop right in there. And that one goes there. We have our tops. It's just that simple. I have really nice stainless steel adapters. You can either put these together, and each one comes with its own wall mount. So they're independent of each other. It's not one full bracket across. So the gap between them doesn't matter. And that you can use these. These are union joints. Here's your PVC style and your stainless steel style. This is a 1 inch and this is a 1 inch. So we don't have to do any conversion back to 3/4 here. We're just doing a straight 1 inch. The conversion to 3/4 comes on the outside. The beauty of these is that allows you to have these two connected without having to undo these two threaded areas. The thread is in the middle of the joint and it doesn't matter the distance between the two. It would just unscrew on a swivel and come off. This one as well does the same thing. My entire wash setup uses a bunch of these that have valves on it to turn the valve on and off. They work awesome. But those are going to cost you $15 to $20. So if you wanted to save some money, you just take a single one of these. Here's your stainless steel. I buy a 4-pack. Cost me like $16 for that 4-pack. Or you can buy these. I forgot how much these are, but they're cheaper. And that one you would take, do it really tight. And then this one, that's the problem. As you can see, I cannot screw that on. So these two would just spin together like this, and that's what them metal threads are really good for, because if it was plastic, much tougher. It's going to allow us to get really tight on one side and then be able to spin the other thread in. Now obviously Teflon tape is going to be what you're going to want to do. The union joint is obviously much more work because we have to tighten in two sides. Now we got to put one on this side as well. Now we take our union joint. On one side is going to be this thread. And on this side is going to be this thread. So it's got a little offset here. You can actually just kind of push these two together. Make sure that washer's there. And man. So now when I got my filter housings together, instead of screwing that whole filter housing part, all I have to do is take apart this middle section and they're separated. Just making sure that I'm keeping track of that washer. Now on this side, we don't have to convert to garden hose thread because we're going to be using this bendable hose right here to be able to connect from the output side of the 2-stage carbon to the input side of the DI system. Just a 1 inch to 3/4 inch on this side. And on this side, I really couldn't find a good adapter that had a decent garden hose swivel because I prefer to have a swivel on the female garden hose side because the male side of most garden hoses doesn't have a swivel. So when you're trying to screw it in, it just doesn't work. So I went straight from 1 inch to a 3/4 inch garden hose thread. So we're gonna need a 1 inch to 1 inch male to kind of adapt that down. Here we are all together. As you can see, we have no leaks between any of the connections. I have the water running at 2.33 gallons per minute. Let's check our TDS meter. We were at 0 ppm. Trying to put all this together. I had lots of leaks, so I did wind up putting Teflon on all the connections, but they are all good now. So we'll grab a sample. We'll double check using my calibrated TDS meter. It was 342 ppm water that I got from Amazon, and it measured 341, so it was like really close. Let's check this out. And 0 ppm. Reading 0 here as well. And at 2.54 gallons per minute. But there you go. That's the 4-stage upgrade for your 10-inch system. Mostly the Waterdrop, because that's why you would want to upgrade this, because of that bypass. Like I said, CR Spotless has a new one coming out. It's about $460. It has a built-in bypass. I've got one on the way to review. So if you're looking for one, I'll have that out in a couple weeks. In a week or two, when we do the build your own DI system video, then we'll show you the output and testing of one of those DI setups. They'll be using the same bulk resin filters, so we'll be good to go there. And it should be very, very close. These systems are all the same, the bulk resin. So that's about it. Don't forget to check out the links below for anything in the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. The mounting bracket like it is. Like it is. I'm a Super Mario. The TDS melter. Now, if you have water drop like this, the filter. Now, if you have water drop like this, the filter house doesn't have lifted below. Lifted. What am I lifted? Now, if you have water drop like this, the filter house doesn't have lift. To create carbon. The CR spot. Then we'll take this on the top. Oh, dang it. These are union joints. Oh my God. In a week or two when we do the bilge joint. In a week or two when we do